My coworker stole my idea and got promoted, so I exposed them to the entire company. Hello everyone, I'm in a bit of a bind and could really use some advice. So here's the story. I work at a mid-sized tech company in San Francisco. I'm a senior software engineer, and I thought I had a solid relationship with my coworkers, mostly friendly and professional. One of my coworkers, let's call him Jake, and I were particularly close. We'd often brainstorm ideas together and collaborate on projects. I thought Jake was someone I could trust. A few months ago, I developed this incredible new feature idea for our flagship product. I was so excited about it, envisioned it making a huge impact on our user base. I spent weeks researching, prototyping, and finally got a polished presentation ready. I was gearing up to present it at the next team meeting, where I was sure it would get the recognition it deserved. Then, out of nowhere, Jake started acting a little off. He seemed more distracted and less enthusiastic about our collaborative projects. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was just swamped with work. I didn't know that this was the beginning of a series of events that would shake my confidence and alter my career path. So, here's where things took a nosedive. A couple of weeks ago, I was burning the midnight oil, trying to finish up some related documentation. I had a hunch that something wasn't right, but I needed proof before jumping to conclusions. I remembered that our company's shared drive had a section where we kept draft presentations and brainstorming notes. I figured I'd check there to see if there were any comments or input on my project that might explain what was going on. While sifting through the files, I stumbled upon something that stopped me dead in my tracks. A document titled, Jake's Big Presentation. I thought it was a joke at first, but no, when I opened it, I was met with slide after slide of my idea. The feature design, user flow, and even some of my unique approaches were all there, repurposed with Jake's name on them. My heart was racing. I immediately checked the timestamps and revision history. Sure enough, Jake's presentation had been created and updated after I had shared my work. It wasn't a coincidence, it was a deliberate act. My stomach dropped as I realized that my colleague, who I had trusted and collaborated with, had taken my idea and claimed it as his own. The feelings of betrayal were overwhelming. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The very person I thought I could count on had exploited my hard work for his own gain. The next morning, I knew I had to address this head-on. My mind was racing as I walked into the office, my plans solidifying with each step. I was determined to confront Jake about what I'd discovered. I found him in the break room, casually sipping his coffee and chatting with a couple of colleagues. "Jake, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked up, puzzled but willing, and followed me to a quieter part of the office. As soon as we were alone, I took a deep breath, trying to maintain composure despite the fury bubbling inside me. "I came across your presentation yesterday," I began, my voice more strained than I intended. "It's shockingly similar to the idea I've been working on for months. I need to know how this happened." Jake's expression shifted from confusion to a kind of defensive guilt. I didn't realize it was your idea. I thought it was just something from the team's brainstorming sessions. I mean, I did build on it, but I didn't think it would be a problem." I stared at him, incredulous. "Jake, I've been working on this concept in isolation. It wasn't part of any team brainstorms. I have drafts and emails that prove it's my original work." Jake's face went a shade paler. He tried to backpedal, mumbling about how he didn't mean to step on my toes and how he'd only wanted to improve the idea. It felt like he was scrambling for excuses, and none of them seemed genuine. His attempt to brush off the gravity of the situation only fueled my anger. "I appreciate that you didn't mean to cause harm," I said, trying to stay calm. "But this isn't just a misunderstanding. This is intellectual theft. I trusted you, and now I'm left trying to make sense of this mess." Jake looked like he was about to say more, but I cut him off. "I need to take this up with HR. This isn't something we can settle between us." I walked away, my mind still reeling from the confrontation. The aftermath of the confrontation was a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like my entire world had shifted. I was consumed by a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. My trust in Jake had been shattered, and it extended beyond him. Suddenly, I questioned everyone's integrity at work. The office, once a space where I felt secure and valued, now felt hostile and alien. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, barely able to focus on my tasks. Every time I saw Jake, my blood boiled. I couldn't believe he had the audacity to not only steal my work, but also try to downplay the severity of his actions. It was like he had shattered my sense of professional self-worth. As the days passed, the weight of the betrayal began to sink in. I'd poured my heart and soul into this project, and it felt like Jake had erased all my effort with a few clicks. The anger was soon followed by a deep sense of sadness. I had trusted him, collaborated with him, and now I was left feeling isolated and vulnerable. My confidence took a hit, and I found myself second-guessing my own abilities. I wondered if I'd done something to make Jake think it was okay to take advantage of me. I replayed our past interactions in my head, searching for signs I might have missed. The emotional toll was immense. I felt like I was walking around with a heavy burden, unable to fully share what I was going through with my colleagues for fear of further judgment or pity. My once lively interactions with my team became strained and awkward. I began isolating myself, retreating into my own shell to avoid the constant reminders of what had happened. It wasn't just about losing an idea, it was about losing a part of my professional self. The emotional impact was profound, and it took every ounce of my strength to keep moving forward while grappling with the betrayal. After confronting Jake, I realized that I needed to take concrete steps to address the situation. The emotional turmoil I was experiencing wasn't going to disappear on its own. I decided to escalate the issue to HR, hoping they could mediate and find a resolution. I spent the next few days preparing a detailed report. I gathered all my evidence, emails, drafts, and timestamps proving that the idea was mine from the start. It was a painstaking process, but I needed to present a clear case. I documented every step of my work on the idea and highlighted how Jake's presentation mirrored it almost exactly. When I finally met with HR, I laid out everything I had. I described how I discovered the theft, how Jake's behavior had changed, and how his explanations had felt insufficient. HR listened attentively, taking notes and asking questions to ensure they understood the full context. It was a nerve-wracking experience, but I felt a sense of relief as I handed over my documentation. I was doing everything I could to rectify the situation, and that gave me a small sense of control amidst the chaos. HR assured me they would investigate the matter thoroughly. They also mentioned that this kind of situation, while rare, needed to be handled delicately to ensure fairness. I appreciated their professionalism but was anxious about the outcome. The possibility of a prolonged investigation and the potential fallout for Jake made me uneasy. While HR conducted their investigation, I tried to focus on my work and maintain some semblance of normalcy. It was tough, though. Every time I saw Jake, I had to remind myself of my decision and the reasons behind it. I knew I couldn't let this affect my performance or my relationships with other colleagues. As the investigation unfolded, I awaited the resolution with a mixture of hope and trepidation. I wanted justice, but also feared the consequences. What if it made things worse for me? What if the company's response was inadequate? The uncertainty was almost as painful as the betrayal itself. A week after filing my complaint with HR, I received an update. They had begun their investigation, and Jake had been called in for questioning. I was told that they would conduct interviews with everyone involved and review all the relevant documents. It was both a relief and a source of anxiety. The wheels were in motion, but I knew that the outcome was still uncertain. During this period, I found it challenging to maintain my focus at work. The office atmosphere was strained. Colleagues who had once been friendly seemed to avoid eye contact, and conversations felt forced. I could sense whispers and speculative glances, though no one directly mentioned the situation. It was as if the entire office had become a stage for a drama I had inadvertently set in motion. Jake's demeanor became noticeably tense. He was still around, but he kept to himself more than usual. I saw him talking in hushed tones with his manager and a few others, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was saying. The stress of the investigation was palpable, and it was clear that Jake was feeling the pressure. Meanwhile, HR conducted interviews with several team members, including myself. They asked detailed questions about my interactions with Jake, the development of my idea, and any communications that might support my case. It was a thorough process, and it felt both validating and draining to recount everything. One afternoon, HR called me in for a follow-up meeting. They shared that Jake had admitted to using my idea, but claimed it was an innocent mistake. He insisted he hadn't intended to steal credit, but rather thought it was a team contribution. His story was weak, and HR seemed skeptical, but they were still working to get all the facts straight. The uncertainty continued to gnaw at me. While HR's investigation was a step in the right direction, it didn't alleviate the stress of waiting. I was caught between hoping for a fair resolution and fearing that the process might drag on indefinitely. Each day felt like an emotional tightrope walk, balancing between hope and dread. After nearly 2 weeks of intense scrutiny and waiting, HR finally reached a decision. I was called into a meeting to discuss the outcome. My stomach was in knots as I entered the conference room where HR representatives and my manager were waiting. Jake was noticeably absent, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety about what the decision would entail. HR began by acknowledging the gravity of the situation and thanked me for my patience. They confirmed that their investigation had verified my claims. Jake's use of my idea had indeed crossed the line from collaboration into intellectual theft. They explained that while Jake had claimed it was an innocent mistake, the evidence showed otherwise. The decision was that Jake would receive a formal reprimand and be required to make a public apology for the incident. The company decided to promote transparency and ensure that such issues were addressed clearly. Additionally, they mandated a review of the intellectual property policies and offered me a chance to present my idea as a standalone project to the senior leadership team. While the resolution felt like a step toward justice, it was a bittersweet victory. Jake's public apology was uncomfortable for both of us. It was meant to be a learning experience for everyone, but it felt more like a public shaming. I could see that Jake was struggling with the embarrassment, and while I didn't sympathize with him, it was hard to watch the fallout. As for me, the recognition of my idea and the opportunity to present it to senior leadership was a small consolation. I was relieved that my work was acknowledged, but it didn't erase the emotional toll the whole ordeal had taken. I still felt a sense of wariness and distrust toward some of my colleagues, and it was clear that rebuilding those relationships would take time. Despite the resolution, the incident had left a mark. I was wary of letting my guard down and hesitant to fully engage with the team again. The office dynamics had shifted, and I found myself navigating a new landscape where trust was a precious commodity. In the weeks following the resolution, I tried to focus on moving forward. The immediate aftermath of Jake's apology and the HR decision had left the office buzzing with gossip and tension. I made a conscious effort to rebuild my professional relationships and re-establish my place within the team. It wasn't easy. There were lingering awkwardness and whispers that made me feel like an outsider at times. I threw myself into my work with renewed determination. The chance to present my idea to senior leadership was a silver lining, and I wanted to make the most of it. I refined my presentation, incorporating feedback from colleagues who genuinely supported me. I aimed to turn this challenging experience into a showcase of my creativity and resilience. The presentation went well, and I was met with positive feedback from the senior team. They were impressed with the idea and the way I had handled the situation. It felt good to see my hard work recognized and valued, even if it had come after such a painful ordeal. The project was greenlit, and I was assigned a dedicated team to help bring it to fruition. Despite the professional success, the emotional scars lingered. I still found it difficult to fully trust my colleagues. The betrayal had made me more guarded, and I was cautious about sharing ideas or collaborating too closely. I worked on re-engaging with the team in a more measured way, balancing openness with a healthy dose of skepticism. In my personal life, I leaned on friends and family for support. They helped me process the experience and reminded me of my strengths and accomplishments. Their encouragement was vital in helping me regain my confidence and move past the hurt. Slowly but surely, the office dynamics began to normalize. Jake's presence became less of a focal point, and while things were never quite the same, they did become manageable. I learned to navigate the new landscape with a greater sense of self-reliance and caution. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a step toward healing and growth. As time passed, I began to reflect on the entire ordeal and what it had taught me. The experience was a harsh lesson in trust, integrity, and resilience. I had faced a significant professional and personal challenge, and while the scars of betrayal were still there, I found myself growing from the experience. One major takeaway was the importance of safeguarding one's ideas and contributions. I realized that while collaboration is vital, it's equally important to document and protect your work. In the future, I would be more diligent about keeping records and being cautious about who I shared my ideas with. The incident had taught me that while trust is essential, it should be given judiciously, especially in a competitive work environment. Another lesson was about resilience. Despite the emotional turmoil and professional setback, I managed to come out stronger. The process of presenting my idea and getting it approved by senior leadership was a validation of my skills and creativity. It was a reminder that even when faced with setbacks, perseverance and a focus on one's goals can lead to success. I also learned to balance professional relationships with personal boundaries. While I made an effort to rebuild trust with my colleagues, I remained more cautious about how I engaged with them. It was important to me to maintain a professional demeanor while also protecting my own well-being. On a personal level, the support from friends and family was invaluable. Their encouragement and perspective helped me navigate the emotional fallout and regain my confidence. I learned to lean on my support network more and to seek help when needed. The experience ultimately made me more aware of the complexities of workplace dynamics and the importance of advocating for oneself. While it was a difficult chapter, it also provided an opportunity for growth and a deeper understanding of my own values and strengths. As the months went by, the sting of the situation gradually faded, and I found myself adjusting to the new normal. My project was progressing well, and the positive feedback I received from the senior leadership team helped restore my confidence. It felt good to see tangible results from my hard work, and it provided a sense of closure to the ordeal. Jake, on the other hand, remained a somewhat awkward presence in the office. His apology and the repercussions of his actions had clearly impacted him, and he seemed to be on a path of self-reflection. While I still didn't fully trust him, I chose to focus on my own work and avoid unnecessary conflicts. I didn't want to let lingering resentment affect my professional life any more than it already had. In the spirit of moving on, I made an effort to re-engage with my team in a positive way. I participated in team-building activities and took on new projects with enthusiasm. It was a conscious effort to rebuild my professional relationships and contribute to a more collaborative and supportive work environment. The office atmosphere slowly improved, and the focus shifted back to our collective goals and projects. It was a relief to see the team working together more cohesively, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose in my role. While the experience had changed me, it had also made me more resilient and determined. Looking back, the incident with Jake was a challenging and painful experience, but it provided valuable lessons that I carried with me into future situations. The importance of protecting one's intellectual property, maintaining a balanced approach to collaboration, and advocating for oneself were all key takeaways. I also learned to appreciate the value of a strong support network. Friends, family, and mentors played a crucial role in helping me navigate the emotional impact and regain my confidence. Their support was a reminder that even in difficult times, there are people who care and are willing to stand by you. Additionally, I became more aware of the need for clear communication and documentation in professional settings. Ensuring that contributions are recognized and properly credited is essential for maintaining trust and avoiding misunderstandings. In the end, the experience made me a more thoughtful and cautious professional. It strengthened my resolve to protect my work and approach collaborative projects with a clearer understanding of boundaries. It also reinforced the importance of self-advocacy and resilience in the face of adversity. As I continue to navigate my career, I carry the lessons from this experience with me. I've learned to approach professional relationships with a balanced mix of trust and caution, to protect my ideas and contributions, and to seek support when needed. The incident with Jake was a pivotal moment, but it was not the defining factor of my career. It was a challenge that tested my resolve and provided opportunities for growth and learning. I'm grateful for the support I received and the strength I discovered within myself. If there's one piece of advice I'd offer to others facing similar situations, it's to stay true to yourself and your values. Trust is important, but it's also crucial to protect your work and stand up for yourself when necessary. Don't let setbacks define you. Use them as opportunities to grow and strengthen your resolve. Moving forward, I'm optimistic about the future and committed to applying the lessons learned from this experience. The road ahead may have its challenges, but I'm confident in my ability to navigate them with resilience and integrity.